Hal Morrison stood in line at the coffee shop, his flannel shirt rolled up to his elbows on this warm September morning. At 78, he had long stopped caring what people thought of his appearance. His hands shook slightly as he reached for his wallet, a tremor that had started after the war and never quite left. Behind him, he heard the snickering of two young men in expensive suits, their eyes fixed on the faded tattoo that covered his right forearm. Before we continue, I want to know, where are you watching this from? Drop your country name in the comments. Let's see how far this story reaches across the world. And if you think you know where this is going, trust me, you don't. Stay until the very end. Look at that old-timers ink, one of them whispered, not quietly enough. Probably got it at some biker bar in the 70s. These old guys and their tough guy fantasies? His friend laughed, and Hal felt the familiar weight of invisibility that came with age. The tattoo showed a skull wearing a helmet, surrounded by faded text that had blurred over decades. To them, it was just an old man's regret, a relic of misguided youth. Hal ordered his black coffee and moved to the pickup counter, pretending he hadn't heard them. He had stopped defending himself years ago. What was the point? Nobody wanted to hear war stories anymore. His own children barely asked about his service. His wife Martha had been the only one who truly understood, and she had been gone for 3 years now. The tattoo was just another piece of him that the world had decided to mock or ignore. As Hal waited, a woman in a Marine Corps uniform entered the coffee shop. Captain Sarah Chun, her name tape read. She was young, probably early 30s, with the bearing of someone who had seen combat. She stood in line behind where the two men had moved, overhearing their continued commentary about the pathetic old man with the wannabe military tattoo. Captain Chun stepped forward, her voice cutting through the casual morning atmosphere like a blade. "Excuse me, gentlemen. That wannabe military tattoo you're mocking, do you have any idea what you're looking at?" The two men turned, startled by her intensity. The coffee shop had gone quiet. Hal looked up, confused, as the captain walked directly toward him. She stopped 3 feet away, her eyes locked on his forearm, and then something extraordinary happened. She snapped to attention and rendered a sharp salute. If you're starting to feel the goosebumps, hit that like button right now. You're about to witness something incredible. "Sir," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "Force Recon, 1st Battalion. The Frozen Chosen survivors." She was reading the blurred text that surrounded the skull, words that most people could no longer make out. "My grandfather served with you. Staff Sergeant James Chun. He died when I was 12, but before he passed, he showed me his tattoo. He told me there were only 43 men who earned the right to wear that ink. He said they were the bravest men he ever knew." Hal's coffee cup slipped from his hand, splashing across the floor. His eyes filled with tears as decades of memories came flooding back. "Jimmy Chun," he whispered. "I carried him out of Chosen. He took a bullet meant for me." The captain's own eyes were wet now. "He told me that story every time I asked about his tattoo. He said you saved his life 3 times in Korea. He said you were the reason he came home, the reason I exist. When he was dying, he made me promise something. He made me promise that if I ever met a Frozen Chosen survivor, I would thank them. Because he never got to thank them enough." The entire coffee shop was watching now. The two men in suits had gone pale, understanding dawning on their faces. Hal stood there, trembling, as this young Marine captain honored him in a way he hadn't been honored in decades. "Your grandfather was the best man I ever served with," Hal said, his voice breaking. "When I got home, I looked for him. We exchanged letters for years, but I lost track. I didn't know he had a granddaughter. I didn't know he joined the Marines, too." Captain Chun smiled through her tears. "He didn't just join, sir. He spent 30 years in the Corps. He told me that you taught him what it meant to be a Marine, even though you were both so young. He was 19 at Chosen, you were 21. He said you led them through hell with nothing but courage and a refusal to leave anyone behind." She turned to address the entire coffee shop. "This man fought in one of the most brutal battles in American history. The Frozen Chosen, where temperatures dropped to 30 below zero, where 13,000 men faced 120,000 enemy soldiers. They fought for 17 days, surrounded, outnumbered, and freezing. They brought their wounded and their dead out with them. Every single one. That tattoo represents sacrifice and brotherhood that most of us can't even imagine. One of the men in suits stepped forward, his face red with shame. Sir, I'm so sorry, I had no idea. I was completely out of line. His companion nodded vigorously, unable to meet Hal's eyes. Hal looked at them both, and instead of anger, he felt only tiredness. You didn't know, he said simply. Most people don't. We did what we had to do, and then we came home and became invisible. Captain Chun shook her head firmly. Not today, sir. Not ever again if I have anything to say about it. She pulled out her phone and made a call. Within 30 minutes, the coffee shop had filled with active duty and retired Marines, all coming to honor one of their own. They had connected through the local veterans network, word spreading that a frozen chosen survivor had been found. They surrounded Hal, sharing stories, asking questions, treating him like the hero he had always been but had never felt like. One old Marine, nearly as ancient as Hal, pushed through the crowd. Harold Morrison? I'll be damned. I'm Peter Walsh. I was with 3rd Battalion. I've been looking for you guys for years. As the impromptu reunion grew, Captain Chun stood beside Hal, her hand on his shoulder. My grandfather wanted me to join the Marines because of you, she said quietly. He said that the Marine Corps needed more people who understood what you understood, that everyone matters, that you never leave anyone behind, that true strength is protecting those who can't protect themselves. You didn't just save his life. You shaped his life, and through him, you shaped mine. Hal looked around at the faces surrounding him, young and old, all united by the same code, the same commitment. For the first time in years, he didn't feel invisible. The tattoo on his arm wasn't just faded ink anymore. It was a bridge connecting generations, a reminder that some bonds never break, that some sacrifices are never forgotten, even if they go unrecognized for decades. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you to look deeper before you judge, to honor those who served in silence, then please share this video. There are thousands of veterans out there who feel invisible, who carry their stories quietly, waiting for someone to simply say thank you. Subscribe to this channel because every week we share stories that matter, stories that remind us of the best of humanity. These heroes deserve to be remembered, and together we can make sure their sacrifices are never forgotten. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next story.